Hi, everyone. Welcome to the That's Allowed podcast. This is the first episode of season 2. So exciting. I'm sorry, I just said season 2. That's hilarious. This is the first episode of season 3. I'm behind myself.
Let's go again. Take two.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay, take 2. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the That's Allowed podcast. This is season 3, ladies and gentlemen. And here we have Syed, and I've just forgotten how to pronounce your last name again.
Don't worry, I'll cover that part.
Okay, I'm going to let Syed introduce himself. Please, Syed, tell us who you are.
Hey everyone, my name is Syed Sani Karani,
There we go.
and I am from New Delhi, India.
Mm-hmm.
I am an entrepreneur, and I have a training and development and coaching organization through which I plan to help a lot of people in emerging economies, especially. Our goal is to help people become successful while they keep happiness at the core of all that they do.
I love it.
And I kind of made this the purpose of the organization because I used to work with a lot of C-suite executives, and I used to work with a lot of managers. And as a training and development professional, whenever I interacted with fellow professionals, colleagues, especially people who are working in the corporate world, I found that people are successful. I mean, they would be driving Audis and BMWs and Mercedes, but they're sad. And although
Mm-hmm.
they fit the typical criteria of becoming successful, they have achieved their goals, financial goals, because these days, whenever we talk about goals, somehow we have this predisposed idea that we're only talking about financial goals. So
Mm-hmm.
I met people who have achieved their goals and they're always sad. So I thought we have to have something, some way through which we can help people kind of keep that light, that spark of happiness alive within themselves. So that's what Indian Training Company is about. And yeah, like I said, we're planning to help a lot of professionals, especially in emerging economies, to find success and keep happiness at the core of all that they do.
That's wonderful. I love that so much. So let's talk for a minute about goals before we dive into my list of questions. So I love this idea of keeping happiness at the core of everything and not thinking of goals just as financial goals.
Yeah.
I for the longest time I really struggled with setting goals because like you said, it just felt like I not everything for me revolves around finances. And so it was really hard for me to get like excited about, oh, my goal is to buy a car or, whatever it is. And then I found this book by Danielle. Oh shoot, Danielle La Plante La something. I'll look that up. But it's called uh, Goals with Soul,
Uh-huh.
and it's all about finding your core desired feelings
Wow.
and 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 having everything revolve around what do I want to feel more of. And what are the things in my life that support that? And what are the things that don't? And just sort of, pruning your garden and planting your garden of life around this
Yeah,
idea of, I want to feel more of this feeling. And that changed everything for me.
that's
Absolutely
awesome.
everything.
That book sounds great.
It is great. So I will find the actual book. I have it upstairs and I'll put that in the show notes so people can find that.
Yeah,
All
for
right.
sure.
Now then, I have a question for you. And this is the first question I always ask, which is,
Mhm.
what is the story you're not telling?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I thought about it. And when I thought about it, I came to the conclusion that actually, off late, I have been telling the story that I was not telling.
Hmm.
And I grew up hiding a lot of stuff about how I was bullied or how I failed or how I did not believe in any one religion. But
Mm-hmm.
I am accepting of all faiths and religious beliefs as long as they're peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to hide all these things because I sort of I was raised in a way, again, coming back to conditioning and coming back to how we are raised and how we're taught certain things and how these ideas are sort of carved on our malleable brains, that this is right, this is wrong. So I grew up believing that if I were to tell people about how I was bullied or how I was in school, I used to always get bad grades, people would judge me or people would think that I'm weak.
Mm.
And also I used to think that being weak was something wrong. So all these ideas kind of stopped me from telling that story. So that was a story that I was not telling, and I'm very thankful that something happened to me over the last 1 year, and I've started to share with people the truths that I have been hiding for all my life, and I feel
Mhm.
great actually. Um, I've been an introverted individual all my life. I've always refrained from sharing uh, a lot of things with a lot of people. I've always been envious of extroverted individuals, how they're always flamboyant and how easily they make conversations with people. It was always difficult for me, like somebody has put 1,000 kilograms of weight on my shoulders while I'm talking to someone. So yeah, so those were the stories that I was hiding, and I'm really thankful to that change, to that. I wouldn't call it catharsis, but yeah, something, some sort of a transformation happened, and I've started talking about those things now. So yeah, that's the story that I was not telling.
So let's talk about that transformation. Let's go a little bit deeper into that. Where do you think that started? That things started to change for you, or the tide started to turn?
Sure. So I'll take you back to my childhood real quick. I was this
Absolutely.
guy, not that uh, good looking, not the brightest mind in the classroom. Um, like I said, I was an introvert, so I was not even taking part in a lot of activities or whatever. I was always up for writing for my school magazine, though, because that's the kind of thing that people like me. Again, I'm stereotyping. So someone like me would do. Someone like me would prefer to do. And when I grew up with those ideas, and of course, I was bullied a lot. I've shared this 100 times now. I was bullied a lot, and I was made sure that I people made sure that I learned to believe that I'm not good enough.
Mm.
And when I grew up with those ideas in my head, I actually felt that I'm not that good enough. And when I started working, I was always very scared of my managers
Mm.
at work because they were my superiors, and somehow I had to obey them or respect them, and there was a line that I was never supposed to cross. So I was not even getting a lot of professional success. And in 2015 or in 2000, yeah, in 2016, I lost my job.
Mm.
I was let go. I was working for a real estate company, and I was let go. And after that, I briefly worked with a international organization. It's an American multinational company, very huge. Anyway, so I worked there for a brief period of time, and the manager used to again, it was a cycle. I used to join a company, the manager used to harass me or bully me, or that's how I felt, maybe because those were the ideas implanted in my head.
Mhm.
And it kind of was a snowball effect for me, from the very first day. I started to think that this is a negative environment, it's not going to do good to me, people are bullying me, I would not be able to grow here. And when I am thinking all of those negative thoughts, I am also seeing a lot of negativity happening in front of me, because what you think, that's what you see.
Absolutely.
So one fine day, I go to my office at this American multinational, and just before the front gate, before punching my ID and to let me go inside, I think that's enough, man. It's about to change my life. I cannot do this anymore. I can't be this guy anymore. So I call my manager. I say, I can't do this. I'm out. And that's when I thought that I would start something on my own.
Hmm.
And Indian Training Company was started off of two basic ideas. Idea number one was to make myself a stronger individual,
Hmm.
a person who would have the courage to run his own company.
Mm.
And idea number two was to create an organization where the training and coaching we impart to people originates from genuine, original ideas and thoughts, and it comes from a genuine place of helping.
Mm.
And I did not want to create an organization where you read Dale Carnegie's book and you just rip off 4 chapters from that book and create a fancy presentation and go train the organization. I never wanted to create that company. So this transformation was a slow transformation, of course. It began in 2016, and I think the peak was around 2019. Um, so
And
there was
what was
this
the
girl.
peak? Where did this kind of get to in
Yeah,
terms of a peak?
yeah, that's what I was coming to. So there was this girl that I was seeing, and I used to really like her, and so I was serious about her, and things did not work out between us, and everything just came crashing in front of me again because all that uh, pent up negativity or whatever that I had inside of me, which I was kind of battling, it sort of became powerful again, and it came in front of me again. And um, that's when I started to realize that those demons, they were never gone. They were
Yeah.
just kind of taking a little weed break, and they were just sitting in a corner, smoking some pot, waiting for the right moment to show up again. Yeah. So that's how the peak level reached, and
Yeah.
I was really down. I went into serious anxiety and depression, and for about a year, I was not able to run my company. And thankfully, with the help of friends and with a lot of self-help, I watched a lot of videos. Thankfully, I've got some friends who are doctors, who are psychologists, so they
Hmm.
helped me out, and they helped me become better, and they helped me find out more about myself. And Dr. Adrian, I would tell you that the number one key to becoming a better individual
Hmm.
is not to find out more about the world. It's about finding more about yourself.
Yeah.
People keep reading all these books, people keep watching videos. It's not going to help them. The only thing that's going to help them is reading what's inside.
Yeah.
And I've realized that the books that we read and the videos that we watch, we only watch them, just to confirm our own beliefs.
Yeah.
We're not watching them because they're helping us learn something. We're watching them just because they're reassuring our own ideas.
It's
So
very
yeah,
true.
anyway, so that was my transformation story, and it was very slow, very painful, but I learned to cope. So I became friends with those demons,
Hmm.
and now we kind of share joints as as they're smoking it. So I pass it on to them, they pass it back to me, and sometimes I like put it on my ear so that I can smoke it later. So that's how it goes now.
I love that image. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So the next question is, how did it change you? And I think you've pretty well covered that, but I want to hear your sort of summation of what was the transformation. How did this change you?
Yeah, so everything. I mean, I would talk about everything here. I would talk about gender identities. I would talk about
Mm.
religion. I would talk about politics. I would talk about nationalism, everything, even cuisine for that matter, the food that we eat. Um, See, India is a very, it has a rich culture and rich heritage, right?
Hmm.
So when we're growing up, we're, we're repeatedly told that you have the best culture, kids, and you're living in a very beautiful country. And that's true. We are living in a very beautiful country, and it has a great culture. It has great food, and it has great people, and we have a rich history. Everybody knows about it. I mean, I'm sure there were hundreds of Americans who found out about the Harappan civilization, and who unraveled the mysteries of Ashoka's kingdom. So nobody's disputing those ideas. Everybody knows about them. Anyway, so when we're growing up, we're kind of these strong ideas are put in our brains, and I'm sure that in Gen Z or Generation Alpha, it's going to be less. But I am an early millennial. I was born in the late 80s, so it's like it was in my time. It was strong, and I'm sure people who were born before me, it was stronger in them. So, ideas about gay people being not natural, or religions that are not your religions being incorrect. And I
Mm.
recently recorded a fun podcast with a friend, and that the title of that podcast was "Are All Non-Believers Going to Hell?" So, so we talked about a lot of religious beliefs there. Anyway, so that transformation helped me understand that the religion that my parents followed was not the best religion. It is a religion amongst many other religions.
Hmm.
It helped me understand that people who do not identify as being male or female, they're not idiots. They just have a, I mean, that's the way they are, and they identify with being someone else or some other gender. So it's completely cool. People who are not Indians, they're not idiots. Come on, people who are our enemies for that matter, like people from Pakistan or people from China. These are the
Hmm.
two countries that most Indian people hate. So, and some people might give me flack for saying this, but even the regular people in China and Pakistan, they're not haters. Come on. I mean, these are all political frictions that
Hmm.
happen because of which we start hating each other. But if I were in the United States of America and if I see a Pakistani guy, I would not even realize that that guy is Pakistani. I might consider that person to be an Indian because we
Right.
look so much alike. And so these were the ideas that kind of completely changed in me, and I started to see the world differently. I started to understand that people who are different from me, they are absolutely similar to me on the inside. We've got the same biochemistry, we've got the same emotions. Our genetic code is 99.99% same. Our genome is absolutely the same imprint.
Hmm.
It's just that somebody was born in some other country because of the accident of birth, and somebody was raised in another way because of the conditioning that they were raised with. And that's how we grew up to be different. Otherwise, we're just same individuals, basically.
It's very true. And I think let's go into that a little bit deeper because I
Yeah,
find that
sure.
so fascinating. When you look at people around the world, everyone wants the same stuff. Everyone wants the
Yep.
same stuff. They want to be happy. They want the people that they care about to be happy. They want peace. They want calm, you know. But then people get caught up in fear. They get caught up in
Yeah.
this fear of we won't have enough. There won't be enough abundance. There won't be enough resources for everyone. And so they get caught up in greed. Well, we have to control what we have to protect, our own against these other people. And you get this idea of the other, right?
Right. Right.
And that's kind of how every conflict begins, but when you look down at it, everyone, like I said, wants the same stuff. We're all really very much the same,
Yeah.
but it's those little details, that you can have a terrible fight with your sibling, right, over
Yeah.
something tiny and small, because our
Yeah.
emotions can get so worked up over these
Yeah.
little things that feel so important in the moment. And it is so freeing for me to travel and to meet people from other cultural contexts and to realize, like you said, how similar we are, but also how different those cultural contexts can be and how much that can influence us without us even realizing it.
Yeah,
without our being
absolutely.
aware that, oh, I grew up in a culture that told me that boys are like this and girls are like this, and there's nothing in
Yeah,
between, for example, right?
yeah.
And when you grow up and you go to another context and you meet someone who doesn't identify as either of those things, and you go, wow, still a person, still has the same, desires and feelings that I do. Like, whoa,
Right,
it really
right.
opens your mind. And I think it's really a shame, especially in the United States, how little people get to travel internationally.
Yeah.
It is a real shame, and especially right now. I mean, I really feel for my kids. They can't go anywhere right now, and we had all these plans for traveling, and it's like, is
So,
that going to happen? When is that going to happen? I have no idea what's going to happen.
mhm.
Such a
Well,
crazy.
that's going to happen pretty soon for sure.
I sure hope so.
But the good part is that you are, you've got an awakened mind. So your kids are going to they're going to turn up great,
I hope
and
so.
because you're going to guide them in that way, and that's
Yeah.
what is necessary.
Yeah. So we've talked a little bit already about what's blocked you from telling this
Mhm.
story, but can we go a little bit deeper into that? What is that feeling of, is it fear? Is it shame? What is it that blocks you? Like you said, you didn't want people to see you as weak. So what is
Yeah,
that fear of being seen as weak that keeps us from sharing these stories?
it is 100% fear
Hmm.
with a nice topping of imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
So uh, we're always stuck in the stories that we are raised with. We're stuck in those stories, and uh, we develop characters in those stories. And obviously, we're playing all those characters. We've got multiple roles. We're not getting paid for it, but we are playing multiple characters in those stories. We're the bad guy. We're the good guy. We're the good guy's best friend who's gonna tell the girl your true side of the story,
Uh-huh.
and we're also the girl who's gonna fall in love with us. So we are all those people. We're all those characters,
Yes.
and we invent those characters to save us. And some of those characters are wild. Some of those characters are sort of whimsical. Some of those characters are sad. Some of those characters are the kind of a parent. So I don't know if you know about this the transactional analysis model of Eric Berne.
Hmm.
And Eric Berne talks about the parent, the adult, and the child. So he talks about three personality types. And Eric Berne says that everyone has a parent, adult, and a child. And the parent could be a critical parent or a nurturing parent,
Mm-hmm.
and the child could be an adaptive child or an aggressive child.
Yeah.
And the adult is an adult. The adult is rational. So I had all these personalities in my head, and I'm sure so do other people. Sometimes I was the rational parent. Sometimes I was the nurturing parent. Sometimes I was the aggressive parent. Sometimes I was the adaptive child. Sometimes I was the aggressive child. And all these ideas, they were coming in front of me again and again. All these characters that I'm talking about. Sometimes these characters were stopping me. Sometimes these characters were helping me grow. And like when this transformation happened, it's like you have to uh, you have to kind of go through the catalog of characters that you have,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to pick out the character that is most you and that resonates the most with you. Because when you've invented so many characters, you tend to forget which one is actually you. So you pick up the character which most resonates with you, and then you lead the rest of your life as that character. And
Yeah.
there are truly very, very few people who find the real you. But I
Mm.
believe there is no real you because as soon as we're born, we're getting influenced by a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
So who the hell knows what the real us are? I think it was lost as
Yeah.
soon as we were born. So yeah, so all these characters, just browsing through the characters, find the real character, and lead the rest of your life with, or playing the character that is most resonates with you.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so to answer your question in one line, fear was stopping me, and I always thought that if I were to start acting as I felt most comfortable,
Hmm.
uh, I would fall flat on my face. People
Yeah.
would not like me, and I think human beings crave acceptance a lot. So I was also craving acceptance, and the day I started to understand that I should not give a shit about whether people accept me or not. I should give a shit
Yeah,
about whether I accept myself or not.
absolutely. Yeah.
That was the day that things started changing, and to this day, which the thing that I'm about to say is different from the question that you asked, but to this day, I keep telling people that self acceptance is the first step in personal transformation,
Hmm.
and that's absolutely important.
I think that's so true. And I think it feels really ironic to a lot of people to have to accept yourself to be able to change yourself. But if you look at it, that's actually the case with everything. You have to start from where you are. You can't start from someplace else, right? You can't start from 3 years
Absolutely,
ago or 2 years from now. You have to
yeah,
start with what you have exactly where you're at. And so if you're
yeah,
in any kind of denial around that and saying, I am not this way, or I do not accept myself as I am, then how can you can't work with that. Sorry about that.
that's all right.
Let me silence that real quick. So, I want to talk a little bit about imposter syndrome because you brought that
Hmm.
up. And I
Yep.
feel like it's such an important thing to talk about because everyone who is good at what they do will
Hmm.
experience imposter syndrome at some point.
Right.
There has been a lot of research around this, and they found that if you have an enormous amount of confidence around something,
Yeah.
you're probably not as good at it as you think you are.
That's so true.
Because
It happens.
once you start to get knowledge about something, you realize how much you don't yet know. And the better
Yeah.
you are at something, the better you are at judging how good someone is at that thing. And so you
Yeah.
become more critical of yourself. And so
Yeah.
imposter syndrome is actually a cue that you are on the right track, that you are good at this, that you are getting knowledge around it, and that you are learning.
Yeah.
So if you are not experiencing imposter syndrome around something, if you think, wow, I am amazing at this and I don't have anything more to learn, um, you probably aren't as good as you think you are,
I'm
frankly.
reminded of I'm reminded of that quote. I don't know who wrote it, but I've read it a lot of times on Instagram. The fool did not know that it can't be done, so
Mhm.
he did it anyway.
Right.
So I think that's the mentality that you're talking about.
Yeah, and sometimes that can actually be very useful. I applied for a Fulbright scholarship, not knowing what a Fulbright scholarship was. It just
Hmm.
sounded neat. So I applied for it and I got it, but I never would have applied for it if I had known how competitive it was because I would have thought, "Oh, I'm not that smart. There's no way." There's all these other, smart kids who went to these fancy schools and, they probably get Fulbright scholarships. I'm just some girl who's good at, some stuff and so sometimes it really pays to have that blind confidence
That's awesome.
and to
That's
adopt,
awesome.
yeah,
I love that. I love that story.
yeah, just to adopt the mentality of the fool and just say, hey, I want to do this, so I'm going to do it.
Yep.
Okay.
Sometimes that helps.
Definitely. But I just want to reassure you, if you're saying to yourself, oh, gosh, someone's going to realize I'm not as good at this, as I claim to be. Hey, everybody's in the same boat. We're all learning, we're all growing, we're all getting better. Everybody is a work in progress. There's nobody
Yeah,
out there who is 100% wonderful at what they do. You will probably teach them something if you work with them because we all learn
for
from each
sure,
other.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah. So, who do you think needs to hear this?
The stories that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh man, I guess all the chubby kids who are not doing that great in school and
Yeah.
who are getting bullied on the regular, they should hear it. And
Absolutely.
and everyone who thinks that they're too significant to make a positive change, or everyone who thinks that they're too insignificant to even begin in the direction of making a positive change,
Mm,
should hear it, because
yeah.
that's the tricky part. People don't even start. uh, and I always urge, a lot of students write into me on my Instagram page, and whenever I'm training professionals, so a lot of these, assistant manager, middle management people, they approach me and they're like, "Dude, how did you do it? You were an assistant manager, and then you were going to become a manager, and then you left your job. And I had recently become a manager when I left my job. So people are like, you became a manager, and that was such a big deal. Why did you leave a job?" I was like, I was never in the game for the titles. I was in it for something else, and I was not getting it, and I wanted to find it, so that's why I left it. So you have to start somewhere, right? And that first step, and obviously this is a cliche, hundreds of people have said this before me, I'm just going to repeat it. First step is the hardest, but you
Mm-hmm.
have to make it anyway. That's the starting point. So, who needs to hear it? People who are afraid of taking the first step. Just
And that
do it,
first
man.
step is self acceptance, right? Which it sounds
Absolutely.
easy, but is incredibly hard.
Oh boy, it's hella difficult.
Yeah. It's one of the hardest things to do. And that's
Yeah,
why so few people actually achieve it and are able to change. You know, they say, oh, people don't really change. Well, they certainly can, but most people don't because it is really hard to accept yourself exactly where you're at and love
right,
yourself exactly where you're at to be able
right.
to make that change. Most people
Absolutely.
in relationships are not fully accepting the other person in that relationship exactly as
Right,
they are. They can't
right.
even see them exactly as they are because they have so many fantasies projected onto them of what they want
Absolutely.
their partner to be or what they expect their partner to be.
Yeah.
And so,
And
go
yeah,
ahead.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm sorry. You were saying something.
I was just
No,
going to
I just
say
wanted
that
to add. Sorry. You go first. I'll go later.
I was just going to say that when two people are in relationship like that,
Mhm.
the key that I found is asking yourself, can I love this person exactly as they are? And if you can't, you need to let them go. You need to for both of your
Right,
sakes. But if you can,
right.
then do it and you will see them blossom and start to change. I promise you, it happens every time, but only if you genuinely can accept them and love them exactly as they are. Now, please, your turn.
You're absolutely right, and I'm definitely going to comment on that part as well. But earlier, I was going to say that self acceptance does not mean saying this is who I am and this is who I'm going to be
Right.
always.
Yes.
I think that's a lazy move, dude. You just don't want to change. That's why you're saying that.
Yeah.
And this is who I am is, I find it as an excuse of not becoming better in life.
Hmm.
So self acceptance is just getting comfortable in your own skin
Hmm.
and becoming aware that yes, there are differences that exist in this world, and you were created differently from other people, and the standards of beauty or excellence are, they're just all man-made, and
Mm.
nature did not make those differences. So if you're not excelling right now, I mean, I was recently interacting. I've got a friend in the United States, in Texas, and so she just graduated from school, high school, and I met her on this brilliant platform called Slowly. Anyway, so she was writing letters to me, and through in the middle of a conversation, I found out that she's a high school kid. So I told her that, kid, do you know I'm almost double your age? You're talking to me. She said, that's all right. I don't want. I just want knowledge. That's it. Anyway, so during our conversations, I asked her that what it is that you want to do, and she said, I just want to find myself. And I thought, this kid is the wisest kid I've ever
Yeah.
met in my life.
Yeah,
So that's what self acceptance is all about. Just looking for yourself.
absolutely. So,
And yeah,
can I tell you a quick story about when I had just graduated high
yes,
school?
yes,
So,
yes, please.
when I graduated from high school, I was anorexic
Mhm,
and I was, in a bad way. Like you,
mhm,
I was teased for being chubby. And so I went
mhm,
to this opposite extreme of starving myself and thinking that that
mhm,
would make me beautiful and that people then would like
mhm,
me and accept me. And
mhm.
surprise, surprise, I was still miserable. In fact, I was now more miserable because I was hungry and people still didn't accept me and love me. So I went to Europe. I made a deal
Mhm.
with my father that I would gain a certain amount of weight back, and then he would send me to Switzerland to meet some of my family.
Awesome.
And on the way to Switzerland, I went through Paris and I went to the
Mhm,
Musée d'Orsay. And I
mhm,
walked in, and it was all these statues, sort of Greek and Roman and, statues of antiquity. And these
mhm,
women were all pear shaped. They
mhm.
had these big old hips and butts and, little perky boobs. And I was like, they look like me. Oh my God. And it just like blew my head open that this at one point was considered the pinnacle of beauty, that this
Yeah,
was the standard of beauty. And if you didn't look like this,
yeah.
people didn't think you were beautiful. And that
That's how it
changed
was.
everything for me. Like you said, just realizing there's this other cultural context where
Yeah,
everything is different and everything you think you know, all these truths, all these things that you think are normal or accepted, that's just in one cultural context. In another,
yeah,
it's the complete opposite and everything is different. And it made me realize, oh my God, I could be beautiful just exactly
yeah.
as I am. I just have
So
to
cool.
believe that. And it changed everything for me.
Right. That's awesome. Uh, and that story reminds me of so many things that I've seen and read, growing up, and that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Europe especially is beautiful. So yeah, I was just transported to Paris. I've never been there. I want to go there.
Mm,
But yeah, that story is so true, and you're right. Being fat was considered the pinnacle of beauty at one time.
that's right.
And I've read that there were certain people, the aristocrats, who got their portraits painted, and the guys wanted their tummies to look even bigger in their
Bigger.
portraits, so
Mm-hmm.
that they could look even more beautiful.
Yeah, a nice double
And you
chin,
see all those, yeah, you see Francesco Goya's paintings, and you see all those women in those paintings. They're all naked first of all,
hmm
and they're all really chubby.
Yeah, with the
So
nice fat
yes,
rolls. Yeah, because that speaks of abundance and wealth, right?
yeah, yeah,
It's very interesting how we just we pin these different abstract ideals onto the
yeah,
human body and
yeah.
expect people to somehow conform to that. And it's insane.
That's
It's insane.
that's what that's what we've done. That's
Yeah.
what we've come to.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what do you think is the main message or takeaway from your story?
The main message or takeaway is that you're never too small, or you're never too shy, or you're never too whatever. You're never too brown or black to
Mhm.
make a change in this world. And you know, Dr. Adrian, right now there are a lot of countries in this world that are experiencing huge periods of turmoil, like there's Syria,
Yeah.
like there's Palestine and certain parts of Israel that are experiencing this whole conflict. And you know that, if we just look back in history, so those regions are going to emerge and become absolutely magnificent and beautiful again. Those
Mhm.
regions were beautiful. They're experiencing a negative time right now. They're going to become beautiful again. So just like those regions change, and in keeping the Sphinx's analogy in mind, the Sphinx burns, becomes ash, and then rises again. So you can do the same thing. You can start over and over again, and it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, uh, how much money you have. Do it if you've got if you've got breath in your lungs, if you've got your body metabolizing the food that you've had, and if you've got a spark of electricity going in your brain thanks to your heart, you've got the potential to do something. And there's I think I forgot the name of this gentleman. His last name is, I think, Vujicic or Vujicic. I think it's Nick Vujicic. So this person was born with a syndrome uh, where he does not have any limbs, where he does not have any hands or any legs. So he just has a body. Okay, and um, when I first saw him, I was like, how can this person, you know, even survive? And when I later on read about him and found out more about him, uh, I found out that he's an evangelist and a motivational speaker. Yeah, I looked it up on the internet. His name is Nicholas James Vujicic. Okay, it's Vujicic. Sorry, I was pronouncing it wrong. This person was born with this rare disorder called phocomelia, and it's characterized by the absence of arms and legs.
Hmm.
And it was hugely motivational for me. I was, if this person who does not have arms and legs that are the most essential parts of the human body,
Hmm.
that help you move, they help you in mobility and whatnot, everything you do with your arms and legs. And this person is a world famous motivational speaker. So me, who's got this huge ass body and who's got all this energy and who's got the potential to eat 4 hot dogs in one go, I can definitely do a lot of things. And therefore I start practicing gratitude, and I practice gratitude every day. And as soon as I wake up, I say a little gratitude prayer, and that gratitude prayer helps me become better. So the takeaway message is, if you're alive, if you're alive, and if you've got family to take care of you, if you've got basic uh, things like food and water and shelter, you're you're really better off than millions of others.
Hmm.
Because there are people, like I just mentioned Syria and I just mentioned Palestine. People in those places, they don't have food, they don't have shelter, they don't have internet. I mean, this thing that we're doing right now,
Yeah.
this is a blessing. You're sitting in uh, I don't know which state you're in,
I'm
the
in
US.
Seattle.
You're in Seattle, so you're in Seattle, I'm in New Delhi. We're having a conversation like as if you were right here in front of me, and we would
Yeah.
just say cheers to a cup of coffee or a bottle of beer, and we would just, we were just good friends. And this is a blessing, and a lot of people do not realize this, and a lot of people need to be realizing this. So
Absolutely.
there's a lot to be thankful for.
Absolutely. I want to go into something you said there a little bit more.
For
I
sure.
love this idea of, if you have the capacity to do something, you have the capacity to do anything. And I went through this period in my life where I was just sort of bogged down with shame of all these things that I had done, and I felt like I couldn't fix them and I couldn't change them. And so I sat down and I just wrote down everything that I had done that had caused harm to me or to somebody else around me. And I looked at that and I thought that this was going to be really crushing, that I was going to feel just overwhelmed by everything that I had done. And instead, exactly the opposite happened. By confronting it, I was able to look at it and say, I caused all of this. I did that. That was me. I made choices and then things happened and there were effects. Now, if I had made different choices, I could have had different effects. And now that I'm aware of that, I can choose to create things in my life that will have an impact. And that sounds really obvious, but somehow seeing it all written out there made it really real to me that I am more powerful than I realize,
Yes.
and that it was just a matter of making better choices.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And on Instagram again, going back to Instagram quotes, you must have read this quote going around. It says, "You're always one decision away from changing your life."
Yeah.
And I always add on another line to that quote, and that line is, "You're always one commitment away to making the life that you want."
Yeah.
So you take one decision, your life changes. But if you commit to that decision, then then the life that you want, it really comes in, it comes to fruition. And
Right.
that's where you want to go.
Assuming that that is in line with your core desired feelings, which I looked up the name of that book. It's called The Desire Map by Danielle LaPlante.
Oh, the
So,
desire map.
is there anything else that you would like the audience to know before we wrap up and I have you tell them where to find you?
I just want to say that if you want to make a change to yourself, do not let that change be driven by external factors.
Mm,
If you're overweight and if you want to lose weight, do it because you want to become healthier. And I'm doing it. I am, I am on an exercise plan. I try and work out every day. I've lost a lot of weight, and I'm going to lose more weight in the future. If your skin is in a bad shape, let's say you've got a lot of acne and your skin is acne prone, so try and get in touch with a dermatologist and try and create an action plan. Do not hate yourself for it. If you have a weak eyesight, there's nothing truly that you can do about it. So rock those spectacles. Get in
mhm.
touch with a friend who's got a good fashion sense and let her or him or them tell you that which spectacles look great on you.
Yeah.
Do not let the changes that you make to yourself or the changes that you make to your life be driven by external influences. Let them come from within, and that would really empower you.
That's great advice. I love that. All right. Where
Thank
can
you so
everyone
much.
find you, Syed?
Oh, a quick Google search with Syed Sani Karani can take people to my pages on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and I am available at the handle at Syed S Karhani on
Mhm.
Instagram. I'm available with the extension of Syed S Karhani on Facebook, facebook.com/Syed S Karhani. And you can always just go to www.indiantrainingcompany.com and click on the contact page and just send a message to us. Although it would go to my director of communications and marketing, but you can just tell her that you want to talk to Sayed, and she can always direct you to me.
All right.
That
Thank you
sounds like a
so
good plan.
much. Yeah. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Adrian. Thanks so much for giving me the opportunity to just truly be myself and not choose one of my many characters to interact with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's
Thank
awesome.
you so much. Yeah. For sure, in the future, I'm going to think of ways in which I can have you partner up with me for something, because I was reading through your website. So you empower people through storytelling, I believe. Tell me a little more about the work that you do.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, what I do is I help people get in touch with their core message. Sometimes
Mhm.
people have a story, but they don't know what the message is behind that story. And sometimes people have a message, but they don't know what story will really help illustrate that message to their audience.
Mhm.
And so I help people from either end of that spectrum, either
Mhm.
from the message end or from the story end. And I help you integrate your message and your story so that you have this really powerful message in a really entertaining story that people will listen to and find wonderful and want to learn more about you and what you do and who you are. So often it ends up on their about page, but it's also just something that you can have as an elevator speech or a
Yeah.
speech at a wedding or whatever it is that you need a story for. That's what
Right.
I help people do. And sometimes people just have a story that's trapped inside of
Yeah.
them that is coloring their world and they're not really aware of that. And I help
Yeah.
bring it out into narrative form so that it is now something outside of them that they can use to help other people and use as a beacon to attract the right people to them rather than it being stuck inside of them.
Wow, that's cool. And communication is nonetheless the number one skill for success. And you've got a niche in a niche, and I think that's awesome. Stories are the way human beings have evolved, and
Hmm.
stories are the number one way that people have learned from their mistakes and their experiences and learned to do better. So what I'm thinking is that maybe I can think of collaborating with you on a project where we sort of help business leaders create better stories for their brands and create better
Absolutely.
stories for themselves as well.
Yes. Yes. That
Yeah.
is 100% what I do. I'd love to work with you on that.
Cool. Let me create a plan for that, and let's try and get connected with some more CEOs. So on the 12th or the 16th of September, I am going to be interacting with about 20 CEOs from Africa, and I
Cool.
am training them on leadership skills. Yes,
Awesome.
and
Did you know that
it's
I
going to
lived
be
in
great.
Africa for a while?
I did not. That's
Yeah.
awesome. When did you live there?
So remember I mentioned the Fulbright. So I went to Cote
Yes.
d'Ivoire and Senegal and Burkina Faso and Mali, basically all the French speaking areas of
Right.
West
Right.
Africa. And I was there in
Uh,
2000, well,
uh
1999 and then 2000, and then again in 2003. So yeah.
So
Yeah.
I am going to be interacting with people from Nigeria,
Hmm.
especially from the Taraba region. But yeah, the countries that you mentioned are amazing, and Africa is it's really making a mark on the
Yeah.
economic forefront.
Hmm.
So Africa is rising again, and
Yeah.
I'm hoping that another because Africa gives us a lot of things. Africa gave us human societies and human beings in general. We can
Hmm.
trace our genetic eve to Africa. So I'm hoping that Africa can give us a new economic model, which is not as trashy as the current economic model that we have,
Yeah.
and which is more inclusive of everyone. Let's
Yeah.
just hope that.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you
Yeah, so
so much
that
for
sounds
joining me
awesome.
today. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
We
Thank
will
you.
absolutely be in touch.
For sure. For sure.